Hey, all my witches, it's Kristin, and Lady Solace Firebird, Anita, is here, and we're coming from
My temple room.
her temple room, because my family is overflowing with familial love right now.
Because we can.
Because we can, yeah. So, yeah, we're from the lovely basement temple room in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota here.
Willow Moonfire.
Willow Moonfire's headquarters. So, hi everybody. Doesn't she have the coolest, pretty thing back here? I love this. It's so pretty. I don't have stuff like that in mine. I need to up my game. Anyway, so
everybody has their own.
Yes.
Layer.
Well, you're an artist though. You're an actual artist, so you do stuff like that. I'm not an artist in that regard. But at any rate, so we're here today to talk with you a little bit about something that has come up for me recently in talking with people online, and I think that it's something that needs to be addressed and explained, and also something that can be applied to the concept of developing discernment as well. I know we talk a lot about discernment in witchcraft, and that has a very broad set of meanings. You can have discernment with regard to what do these tarot cards really mean, or you can have discernment as to, is this person trustworthy? But discernment is something that you develop and grow, and it comes with knowledge, and so a lot of times, because particularly Wicca is initiatory and hierarchical, a lot of times people are told, well, we can't tell you that. No, we can't tell you that either. Yeah, we really can't tell you anything. Sorry. Which is frustrating, because then where do you start, right? Where do you start as a seeker? I was speaking with a lovely young woman from San Diego, California, just before leaving to come here. And I'm a point of first contact for her. And she had been doing some research and already has determined that there's a lot of bad information out there.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. And how does a seeker know? How do you, when you're first starting out, you tend to read books, right? And you tend to trust that if it's in a book, it's legitimate. And I wish I could say that that's the case always, but it is not always the case.
When you're a beginner, your intuition sometimes isn't developed, or hugely, or you don't understand how to read it.
That it's very true, but also there is the desire for something to be true.
Yeah.
Okay. It's and that is something that we talk about in discernment classes all the time. Is it that I'm really talking to this god or goddess, or do I just really want to be talking to this god or goddess?
Yeah.
Do I want the gods to agree with me so badly that I'm going to create a thought form and make that be the god so the god will always agree with me? Or am I open to actually having the god kick my butt, which they will?
And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing, yes. A god or goddess who will not kick your butt occasionally when you need it is not a god or goddess I want to work with, honestly. But so this young person was so grateful that I was willing to give her a reading list. And the reason is that she doesn't want to waste her time with information that she'll later have to unlearn, or it's just frustrating, because there will be partial information everywhere, and even bad books have kernels of things that are good in them.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want to do is talk a little bit about how to determine if people you come across, particularly people who are claiming to be teachers, how to really watch out for yourself, and how to determine if that person is legitimately credentialed the way they say they are, And that's even before finding a fit for a teacher, because it's about fit too.
Yeah.
You can be a legitimate teacher, and I know you have a story about this. Names shall be changed to protect the unfitty people. Not in
bad.
the sense of not bad people, not unfit to be teachers.
Just,
but
it's a combination of the student and the teacher merging together to be able to work cohesively.
Yeah. So you had a couple of different teachers who were very qualified teachers.
Mm-hmm.
These people are absolutely qualified to teach.
Right.
We know them personally for many years. We respect them, but even if somebody is a legit teacher, what are some things that can happen that mean you shouldn't be following that teacher specifically for yourself?
One thing is teaching style for the teacher, learning style for the student. Sometimes if the teacher isn't open to looking at each student that they have, how that student learns, then it's not going to work, because they may have one teaching style.
Right.
And that's fine. That's them. Yeah. You may have like a type A teacher and a hands-on student. That doesn't always work well.
Right. So, we're not just talking about illegitimacy with regard to selecting a teacher, but also some finer points, some fit. But before we get to, am I a good fit with this teacher? If you're a new seeker and you just really want to learn, and I meet these people all the time, they're just like, I just really want to learn. I just really want a teacher. I just really want a coven, or both, right? A lot of times that strong desire to find that and have that be in your life causes you to not pay attention to red flags, or to even discount red flags.
Yep. Kind of puts those rose-colored glasses on you, and you just sometimes just don't see it.
Right. Exactly. So where to begin? People should be aware that although almost no witch can say that they know like pretty much everybody on the planet who's a witch, or who is in pagan community, people should be aware that there is a global pagan community. Okay. So, for instance, those of us who teach at fests, who write, who do outreach type things like we're doing right now, or any number of other things that they do, whether they are offering, large group ecstatic ritual at pagan events, what have you, these people who move in those circles know of one another. Okay, they will, if they have been around, have not only national contacts but international contacts.
Right, and if they don't know, like say, I don't know somebody specifically, I know people that can look and see if this person is like real.
Exactly. So I came upon a gentleman on the interwebs. It was last night and today, who was literally acting. I mean, he called himself a high priest, which is fine. I mean, you may or may not be a high priest, but he was going on about how there was the equivalent of a pagan Vatican, and he used the word Vatican, and it was like, oh wow, okay, this is a guy who doesn't know that I have global contacts. There's no pagan Vatican, just so you know. So this person can seem really legit. They can have a lot of knowledge, they can have a lot of wisdom, but people who claim, do you ever have that one piece of your bangs that just get in front of your eyes? It's just awful. Anyway, it's why it's up. Yeah, well, you look good with your hair back. I don't. Anyway, if a person has the need to list that they have 97,000 degrees, like this gentleman, apparently has multiple PhDs. Wow, that's a lot of time and a lot of money. Anyway, so let's say
they're not 100 or 80.
Right. And again, claimed that he was involved with a global thing that was akin to a pagan Vatican, that's going to be a big red flag. And I'm going to break that down to you a little bit more. So, for instance, how did I, aside from getting a psychic hit that the dude was lying, which I get to do that because I've developed that skill, how can I look at the way he phrased himself and understand that he's actually not what he says he is? Well, first of all, pagan Vatican. That implies that there's one pagan religion. And there are many pagan religions. There's Voodoo, Ifa, Asatru, the various forms of traditional and non-traditional Wicca. Asatru is heathenry, yeah. But other forms of heathenry that are not Asatru, yeah. There's just Santeria could qualify by some standards. Anyway, there's all of these different pagan religions. So when a person says pagan Vatican, that shows already that they are not educated about how a pagan religion, even if it were centralized, would actually be organized.
The other thing is, they're not understanding that pagan is an umbrella term.
It is, exactly. It is.
It's not this.
Yeah.
It's
even neo-paganism is an umbrella term. Mm-hmm. So look at how people use words. Look at how people use phrases.
How they explain the things that they can't tell you at a specific time.
Right.
That's a big key.
Talk a little bit more about that.
So, like when I am teaching people of different levels, and we're Blue Star, Wicca, there are things that are vowel related.
Yeah.
And there are things I can tell a third degree, that I can't tell a dedicant or a first degree.
Right.
Because this is a mystery tradition.
Yep, it's oath-bound, and we will often say, this is oath-bound information, I can't give it to you yet.
Right. It's not your time to know it. You need to focus here, and those things will come when it's done.
Yeah, yes. The person who is fraudulently claiming credentials usually will not be heavily involved in either local or national or international pagan goings on very much, because they have discerned, and if they haven't, they're about to, that they're what they can peddle to a seeker as their credentials and their training will immediately fall apart when presented to people who actually have that training. So a person who claims to be, claims high priesthood, who literally can't name a place they've taught at. Nobody who does teach at different fests knows their name.
I don't teach a lot of things, and I don't do a huge amount, but there are people that know me that I
know your name.
Know.
If somebody says Anita Phoenix, there will be a fair number of people who you haven't even met who'll be like, I've heard of her. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is weird.
It is weird. I get that too. I get that it's weird to me. But the thing is, too, if people name drop in a way that is not verifiable, okay, like for instance, there was one man who actually had some decent things to say on Quora, but he was claiming to be a third degree high priest, and some of the things he was saying led me to go, okay, could you qualify that, because that you're claiming to be a third degree Wiccan high priest, and that doesn't sound right to me. Can you verify some things for me? And then he was like, oh yes, well my friend Raymond Buckland. And I was like, your friend Raymond Buckland, really? I've met Raymond Buckland, but not recently. He's dead now. But this guy was dropping this name they were super tight, they were super close, and Uncle Ray had recently passed to the other side of the veil. So isn't that super convenient?
You mean Uncle Bucky?
Oh, Raymond Buckland.
Never mind.
Uncle Ray. Uncle Bucky.
I always call him Uncle Bucky. That's my fault. That's
actually a thing where like traditional Wiccans will refer to Raymond Buckland as Uncle Bucky. And it's a term of endearment, but it's also, okay, like he's, as many famous pagans are, he's controversial, we love him, and he was really in, the real deal, but he also lied his ass off to sell books. He did. What he would do is he would package partial information as full information, okay? But I'm getting far afield. So this guy was saying, my friend Raymond Buckland, and then when I told him, I said, if you're going to name drop somebody who can't be verified, that's going to be a red flag where I'm going to wonder, like, can you name drop somebody I can actually talk to? Could you? I mean, I can get on the horn and do a seance and get Uncle Bucky too, but I mean, I'd rather just talk to a living person, right? And then he got very defensive and very upset, and insisted he was a third degree. And I said, well, what tradition are you a third degree? And he said, CX Wicca. Well, CX Wicca is basically okay, I'm going to be careful here. Raymond Buckland basically said, oh, initiation? Yeah, you can do that yourself. You can initiate yourself, which there are 100 million reasons why that does not hold water. But, so he created what he called CX Wicca, SEAX, okay, CX Wicca. And he created it, and therefore it is a thing. It is a trad for all intents and purposes. And in that, people will initiate themselves. What this guy didn't realize, though, the guy who was claiming third degree in CX Wicca, is that I happen to know that there is no second and third degree in CX Wicca. It is self-initiatory only. It has one degree. You're an initiate or you're not. And
there it is.
Yeah. And then, then there was wailing and gnashing of teeth. But so the more you learn, the more you hang out with people such as us and other people who have, training in pagan community, whether that's Wicca, whether it's another, tradition, whatever, you will pick up tidbits that will allow you to see through the chinks in somebody's armor if they're lying, okay? So just file this in the back of your head. There's no second and third degree in CX Wicca. If somebody tells you they're a high priest in CX Wicca, they're lying, okay? So just file that in the back of your noodle. People who claim creds falsely do so for nefarious reasons, okay?
Yeah.
If you respect the craft, if you respect the gods, if you respect yourself, you won't lie about stuff like that. I personally would not want to be that guy when I'm standing before the gods and they're like, oh, yeah, could you help us out with that whole high priest claim that you made? Because, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. I really don't. So these are people who, by definition, therefore, do not believe in the gods that they claim to serve. I'm going to say that again, okay? If you are willing to lie about having credentials that claim that you serve particular gods or the gods in general, you clearly do not fear any repercussions in this life or the next for making that fraudulent claim. Therefore, you don't believe in those gods whom you claim to serve. There are some people who have claimed to serve gods who I fear on the best of days. And they claim these things fraudulently, and I quake for them, okay? Because I'm sorry, I've actually met the goddess Hecate. Okay, I've met her. I don't believe in her. I've met her. I don't need to believe in her. She was there. She is an infernal goddess. She is very loving. She is very kind, but she's also going to kick your butt anytime you need it. And I thank her for doing that. She has given me the holy 2x4 on more than one occasion. And
it is very hellfire.
But if you claim to have something and use her name attached to a lie, ooh, dude, I don't want to be you. I don't want to be you.
Keeper of the 7.
Yes, keeper of the 7 hells. Yeah, don't lie about that. Anyway, so yeah, people who claim high priesthood, but they can only quote the most popular books out there. Okay, if a person says, I'm a 3rd degree Wiccan high priest, and then proceeds to talk about the 1st degree Scott Cunningham as though Scott Cunningham is the end all and be all of all Wiccan teachers, when Scott Cunningham didn't even have a level of attainment in his own tradition that would allow anyone to teach. You don't teach at 1st degree except in specific traditions and specific situations. Again, that's a thing. You know, somebody who idealizes an author, right? Silver Ravenwolf is the end all and be all of all high priestesses, or anybody, even somebody who doesn't have controversial. Is there any witch that doesn't have a controversial following? I'm controversial. I've got a little tiny following and I'm already controversial.
I've been controversial since the beginning, and I'm not a writer.
I was controversial for associating myself with you at one point. But I'm so glad I did. But yeah, so I mean, take a look at if people rattle off stuff that anybody could get, right? Claim to know dead people who you can't check with. If they claim,
but
okay, but then who is still alive who knew that person can say, yeah, he was in Bucky's living room or whatever. Asking for a vouch. Vouching. This is the lifeblood of pagan community. Okay, this is why we ask for a vouch. What is that? It's when somebody says, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I come from this tradition, and I have this degree, and I'm interested in doing this with you, or whatever. Asking for a vouch is not rude. Okay, it is necessary.
It's so smart.
Well, and if somebody gets mad at you for saying, who can vouch for you?
Bye.
Because one of 2 things is happening there. Either they're lying, and they don't know the people they claim to know, or they have been banished by a respectable group for behavior unbecoming. Okay, so this is why we vouch. A person could be a very well-versed pagan author who's a 3rd degree high priest who has all this knowledge and information, but he was warlocked from a coven for, molesting children. Do you want to learn from such a guy? I don't. Also, there are these things. Drive-by initiations. Okay, somebody might be an accomplished person, but there have been even some very well-known high priests and high priestesses who, for whatever reason, become a little bit more lax in their discernment regarding a proper person properly prepared, and will do what we refer to as drive-by initiations, where somebody is going to be able to say, yes, I was, initiated by insert name of, well-known witch here. You still want to check for a vouch with not only the teacher, but with people who would be in community with that person.
Yeah.
Because it has been known that, and I'm not going to say their names, but these are people who are still around and they're very famous. There are people who have literally just given somebody the 3rd degree without training them, without really doing much of it. Like, you're talented. It would serve you to be able to say that you're a 3rd degree. Therefore, you are now a 3rd degree. Boom. That, while it is not lying, and it is not necessarily factually illegitimate, such a teacher is not going to have the level of discernment that is necessary to assist a student to fully use the elevations in any religious system because they themselves didn't struggle through it. Struggle is a necessary part of becoming an accomplished witch. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about that?
So, using the pagan path, like the traditional Wicca path, like, say, well, we're Blue Star.
Blue Star.
They set in energy systems along each of the elevations to create situations in a person's life that digs up things that need to come out and be worked on.
Yeah.
Shadow work.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn how to work with those energies and dig up the sludge of all the things that have been in there and stuffed down, you don't know what your real worth is, what your real power can be, because you haven't faced your demons.
And therefore you cannot help a student do the same thing. Okay, so if somebody's going to be like rushing through training, they don't really do the real work and they just kind of get shoved through.
Yeah, they're just stepping on the stepping stones and not getting down in the bog and fighting their way out.
Right, and you can, in fact, if you get with a teacher like that, I don't care if they have a certificate that says they've got whatever, if they haven't done that work, they're not going to be able to assist you to do the work, and therefore you're going to get shortchanged in the potential skill developing that the system is designed to create.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
that subtle energies that we create,
yes,
and learn how to develop and learn from, is what boosts our ability to work the magic that we do in Circle.
Right, and that's something that cannot be. I mean, magic can be gotten without doing an elevation type path, but the specific skill sets and strengths that traditional 3-degree Wicca is designed to impart to a person is not something that can be rushed, nor is it something that should be rushed. And a unqualified teacher who has been given drive-by elevations, even if those are legitimate and searchable elevations, something that you can, like prove happened, you're still going to get shortchanged because that individual just doesn't have the frame of reference and cannot help you through you doing your legitimate work. There's another thing that exists too that's really upsetting, and we're starting to get long here, but we do get long when it's the two of us, because we have a lot to say, right? I met a woman who had been trained in something that she was told was Wicca, which had nothing to do with Wicca at all, okay? And it was rough because at first, so what she was saying is, well, if you're a high priestess, tell me the 9 commandments of Wicca. And I was like, there's no commandments in Wicca. Like, no, not in any trad that exists on the planet. There's no, and she's like, well, at least I remember the basics. And I said, okay, honey.
I tried to Google that.
There's no such thing. And what had happened was that she wasn't like making stuff up. I could feel no duplicity in her energy. She was genuinely like, well, if you're Wiccan High Priestess, why don't you know this? And I said to her very gently, I said, listen, I'm really sorry, but somebody lied their butt off to you and made some stuff up, called it Wicca, and then gave it to you. And I'm not suggesting that what you learned had no value. It may have been quite a valuable thing, but it's not Wicca. So this person was not qualified to teach Wicca, knew they weren't, so they just made crap up. This is why you talk with other people. You always talk with other people. Mystery trads can be lied about because they're mystery trads. Because people think no one can check up on them. If you come away with one thing and one thing only from today, from watching this, I want you to understand this. People will say this and it is untrue. You can't know what another trad teaches. It could be completely different. Okay. Across any legitimately derived tradition of Wicca will be the same skeleton of the liturgies, the elevations, the parts of ritual. The different roles will sometimes be slightly different.
And order.
And order of things can be different.
Things may be flipped over.
Right. But if there is a tradition out there that looks nothing like another tradition, that's because it's a false tradition. It was made up. Now, is it okay to make something up and do it? Yeah, but don't slap an existing label on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like for instance, Reverend Don Lewis of the Karelian nativist tradition. Okay, he is very controversial. As we've said, he's even more controversial than people like us. Why? Because Don Lewis created a new trad. He named it Karelian nativist. And in the beginning, I believe he may have called it Wicca. And then what he did, though, was something that is very admirable. When people brought to him the fact that if he's teaching Wicca, there are some bones that are missing from that skeleton, because he wasn't qualified to actually teach Wicca, what he did is he went, oh, you're right. I'm sorry, I'm going to rename this. And he uses the term Witta, W-I-T-T-A, which is clearly a word that he, coined, right? The difference between guy who says, pagan Vatican and Reverend Don Lewis is that Don Lewis and his people created something that had structure, it has hierarchy, it has specific teachings, they have a school, online school, they do elevations, they're very transparent about what they teach witchcraft, they teach a specific form of neo-paganism, but it has a mission statement. It has a body to it. It has verifiable temples that exist in different places. It has a way of certifying and ordaining clergy that is duplicatable and is done with consistency throughout the tradition. You can make something up and make it be something, which is what Don Lewis did. Mm-hmm. But there is a difference between doing that and making something up to seem like something you're not. Okay? Don Lewis walked his talk. He created something. He had other human beings who were collaborating with him on this. He was transparent about it. He adjusted when he was called out on something. When he was told, listen, you're improperly using this word. Instead of going, I am the high and mighty Don Lewis. You shall not speak to me. No, he didn't do that. He went, oh, gosh, I shouldn't do that. I should probably come up with a different name. Thank you very much. Yeah, so if you want to create something, create it, but do it with ethical sensibility. Do it in a manner that is not going to harm seekers by giving them incomplete or in some cases completely wrong information. Seekers deserve correct information. So, for instance, and I can't do this, we can't do this like all the time, but I've had people come to me and be like, I don't know how to ask for a vouch. This person, wants to be my teacher. I would like them to be my teacher. How do I know that this person is who they say they are? I might not know them or know anybody who knows them, but I know somebody who might know somebody who knows them. And that's what witches do. We will connect and
like a web
and verify and use name dropping in a way that is not like dropping a celebrity's name or a famous person's, like I was Raymond Buckland's friend. Instead, it's like, hey, I've talked with this person. I met them at a con, and I'm pretty sure they remember me. They could probably verify that they talked to me or whatever. Reach out. If you don't know who somebody is, somebody like us, not necessarily us personally, but people who are out and about in pagan community can assist you. approach, obviously politely, don't demand that they do footwork for you.
Mm-mm.
But a lot of us are willing to do that footwork to protect seekers and to make sure that seekers are getting what, they deserve to get.
Yeah.
All right. So
doing it all in a reverent way will get you a long way.
It will, and there are different systems. Not every system is a 3-degree system.
No.
You can have legitimate teaching systems that look nothing like traditional Wicca, but then they shouldn't be calling themselves Wiccan,
Right.
because that would be incorrect. It's an incorrect use of the word.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that our little kind of rambling, we both tend to do that. We're like all over the place, squirrel, but I hope that this has given you something to chew on. I hope that you, as a seeker, have learned a few things about like phrases, how to suss out somebody who seems to have nefarious motivations.
Don't forget your gut.
Don't forget your gut. Don't forget your gut. And the thing is, even if like your gut may say not this guy, that doesn't mean that guy isn't a legitimate high priest, but it could mean you shouldn't be involved with that guy for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's because of somebody in his group that might be not great for you, or whether their personality or their teaching style would be not great for you, whatever it is. But do listen to your gut. And even if you really want a coven really, really, really badly, and you feel like something's wrong, walk away. Okay? Even if you really, really, really want a teacher and you feel like something's wrong, walk away. Do it. A good teacher, a teacher who's worth their salt and who's experienced, will never get mad at a student for saying, I don't think this is a good fit. And a good teacher will say, okay, let's find you another teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I will help you. I'll help you find another tradition. I will help you find another teacher. I will help you find another coven. I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
If they get mad at you for saying it's a bad fit, that's when you run. You don't walk away. You run away.
Or if they ever tell you, no one will ever take you.
Oh, that's just abuse.
Then you run.
You
like
run.
hell.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we'll talk more too. I've written some articles about like how to discern an unhealthy coven or an unhealthy coven leader, such as doing things like expecting sexual favors. Don't laugh, it does happen. Expecting you to loan them money, expecting you to clean their house, aside from cleaning up after circle if you had a thing, or whatever.
Well, that's just helping.
It's just helping, but
to help clean up circle.
Exactly. Yes. But stuff that's like over and above.
Mm-hmm.
Asking you to lie for them.
Never.
But search my articles on that, because I have multiple articles on that subject. At any rate, yeah. Check those vouchers. Get those vouchers. Talk to multiple people. If you don't know where to start, my email is all over the place. You can just message me on Quora, and if you don't know where to start, I'll hit you up with some links. Okay, so just be careful. Use your discernment and recognize that there are some frauds out there, sadly, and keep yourself safe from those people. All right, thank you so much from Lady Soulless Firebird's Temple Room. We are going to wrap it up, and may we all be blessed.